Have you ever wondered why the market women shout at you if you try bending in the market? Or do your grandmother ever warn you not to bend and look through your legs in the market? Have you ever thought of doing it yourself to satisfy your curiosity? In the village of Umueke, nestled between dense forests and flowing rivers, life was simple, yet woven with mysteries. The elders, revered for their wisdom, often warned the villagers about many things, but one rule stood above all. Do not bend down and look through your legs in the market. This command echoed from one generation to another, carved into the minds of everyone. No one dared question why, except for Chidalu. Chidalu was the only child of Ozemena and Nnedi, a couple who had suffered through 5 long years of barrenness. Before his birth, they had endured 6 heartbreaking stillbirths, leaving them hopeless and broken. The day Chidalu was conceived, the village celebrated as if he were a blessing sent directly from the gods themselves. Because of this, Ozemena and Nnedi pampered him beyond reason and named him Chidalu, which means thanks to the gods. They feared doing anything that might anger the gods who finally gave them a child. Chidalu, sensing his parents' fear and deep love, grew to be rebellious, uncontrollable, and arrogant. He refused to listen to the village elders, mocked the customs, and sneered at anyone who dared to correct him. Even his parents couldn't rein him in. The villagers whispered that he was cursed, that a child born after so much grief should be raised with caution, but Chidalu's parents were blind with love. One evening, while sitting with his friends under the bamboo tree, the topic of the market rule came up in their usual conversation. The other boys shuddered at the thought of bending down and looking through their legs in the market, but Chidalu, with his arrogant smirk, dismissed their fears. "Is that all it takes to scare you people?" Chidalu scoffed. "A simple rule about looking between your legs? Nothing will happen, I am sure of it." His friends exchanged uneasy glances. One of them, Ikenna, spoke. "Chidalu, the elder says it's dangerous for a reason. Why do you want to risk it?" Chidalu waved him off with a laugh. "The elders just wanted to keep us in line. I am going to the market tomorrow, and I will prove to you all that it's just a silly and stupid superstition." The other boys shifted nervously. "Don't do it, Chidalu. What if something bad happens?" Another friend, Eze, urged. Chidalu grinned even wider. "You all can come and watch. I will bend down and look, and nothing will happen to me, and I will not even see anything. Then you will all see how foolish these rules are. Come with me tomorrow. You will see for yourself," he said to them. Despite their better judgment, his friends couldn't resist the pull of curiosity. Perhaps it was Chidalu's boldness, or maybe their own hidden desire to witness the forbidden. Either way, they agreed to go with him to the market the next day. The following afternoon, the market was alive with its usual bustling and hustling. The sun beamed down on the vendors selling spices, fabrics, and clay pots, while the sound of lively chatter filled the air. Chidalu arrived with his friends trailing behind him, nervous but eager to see what would unfold. He strutted through the market, his confidence unshaken, while his friends shot worried glances at one another. "This is it," Chidalu said, stopping in the center of the market. Then he turned to them and said, "Now, watch and learn." Before his friends could say anything else, Chidalu spread his legs and bent down and looked through the space in between them. At first, nothing seemed out of the ordinary. The market looked the same and the people continued their businesses. Chidalu smiled, about to mock his friends for their fear, but then it happened. The world around him began to twist, colors blend into one another, and the once bright and bustling market grew dim and silent. The people seemed to slow down, moving as though in a dream. Chidalu's smile faltered, and panic crept into his heart. But before he could straighten up, he saw them. Dark figures, tall and silent, roamed the market, creatures from shadowy skin and glowing eyes that pierced through the veil of the ordinary world. They glided among the villagers, unseen by anyone else, their bodies whispering against the air as they moved. They were not human. They were something else entirely, spirits of a realm Chidalu had no business entering. One of the spirits turned its head towards him, its glowing eyes locking onto his. Chidalu's body froze in place. "Now you see us, Chidalu," it whispered in a voice that felt like ice slicing through his soul. "Now you belong to us." Chidalu froze as he heard that. He tried to stand up, but no matter how hard he tried, he couldn't stand back up. His legs were glued to the ground, and his spine felt like it was held in a place by an invisible force. He gasped, trying to call out to his friends, but his voice was trapped in his throat. He was paralyzed, his body bent unnaturally, his gaze locked between his legs. The spirit had seen him, and they had claimed him. Chidalu's friends watched in horror as he began to struggle. At first, they thought he was playing a trick, but as his body trembled and his eyes grew wide with terror, they realized something was terribly wrong. His mouth opened as if he was trying to scream, but no sound came out. Without a word, the boys turned and ran as fast as their legs could carry them, their hearts pounding with fear. They didn't stop until they reached Chidalu's house. Breathless and shaking, they burst in, shouting for Ozemina and Nnedi. It's Chidalu, it's Chidalu. Ikenna panted. "In the market, something is wrong with him." The parents, panicked, followed the boys as they ran to the market, and on the way, they alerted the village chief priest. When they arrived, a crowd had already gathered around Chidalu, who remained bent over, frozen in the middle of the market. His body was twisted in an unnatural position, his eyes wide with terror. The chief priest stepped forward, his face grim. He knelt beside Chidalu, placing his hand on the boy's head. He chanted softly, but after a few minutes, he stood up and shook his head. "He has seen what no mortal should see," the priest said. "The spirits that roam the market are the guardians of our realm. They live between our world and the next, ensuring balance. But once you see them, they see you, and when they do, they mark you." "What can we do?" Nnedi wailed, clutching her husband. The priest looked down at Chidalu with his sorrowful eyes. "I will try to communicate and appeal to the spirit and see if they will release him." As the sun began to set over Umueke, casting long shadows across the village, Chidalu remained trapped in that same twisted position. In the middle of the market, His body was still bent, his gaze fixed through his legs, unable to rise, unable to speak. His face, which had once been filled with arrogance and defiance, was now frozen in fear and pain. Sweat glistering on his skin as his limbs trembled from the strain. But no matter how hard he struggled, he could not break free from the invisible hold of the spirit. His mother Nedi wailed at the edge of the crowd, her cries piercing the air. Though Chidalu had been a terror to the community, disobedient, reckless, and disrespectful. During the village masquerade festival, Chidalu had unmasked a masquerade and used a whip to pursue the masquerade. Or was it the one he untied the goat that belongs to the chief priest and took it home? He had committed so many sacrilege that dented the culture and tradition of Umueke. But staring at him at this moment, the villagers saw not the troublemaker, but a young boy, their own son, suffering in a way that no one deserved to. "Help him, please. Someone help my son," Nede cried, falling to her knees beside him, clutching his rigid legs as if her touch could somehow bring him back. Her husband, Ozemena, stood behind her, his face paled, his eyes filled with despair. Though Chidalu had often caused them shame, they could not bear to see their only child, the boy they had waited for so long, in such agony. The villagers, despite their frustration with Chidalu's behavior, could not help but feel pity for him now. Mothers shielded their children's eyes, and fathers shook their heads, silently praying to the gods to release the boy from the spirit grasp. It was a horrifying sight, one no parent, no matter the child's fault, should ever have to witness. The chief priest, his face grave, stood over Chidalu, his staff planted firmly in the ground. He had tried everything in his power to communicate with the spirit, to plead for their mercy, but each time his chants filled the air, they were met with silence. The spirits were unmoved. "There must be something you can do to help us," Ozemena pleaded, his voice trembling. "Please, great Dibia, he is our only child. Please." The priest shook his head slowly. "I have done all I can. The spirit do not respond to our prayers. His fate is in their hands." The crowd murmured in despair. They had heard stories of such things happening in the past, but none had ever witnessed it firsthand. The marketplace, once bustling with life, had now grown eerie and quiet. The vibrant energy drained as the shadow of dusk deepened. Chidalu's friends, who had earlier urged him to stop, stood on the edge of the crowd, guilty and fear etched on their faces. They had followed him out of curiosity, out of awe at his boldness, but now they wished they hadn't. As the last ray of the sunlight disappeared, casting the marketplace into twilight, Chidalu's strength began to falter, his body already strained from the unnatural position. But the spirit still held him there, forcing him to remain bent and helpless. His breath came in rage gasp, and tears streaming silently down his face. The chief priest decided to try one last time and offer prayers to the spirit. With a deep sigh, he began to chant again, his voice low and sober, offering the final prayers to the heavens above. And then, just as the first stars blinked into the night sky, a strange stillness came over the marketplace. The air felt different, lighter, softer, as if something unseen had shifted from there. Chidalu's body, which had been stiff and trembling, suddenly relaxed. His leg buckled and he collapsed to the ground. unconscious, but no longer held by the spirit gasp. Ned screamed and rushed to his side, cradling his limp body into her arms, rocking him back and forth. The villagers gathered around, some whispering prayers, others shaking their heads in disbelief. The curse had been lifted, but the damage had been done. Chidalu survived, but the lesson was clear. The warning of the elders were not to be ignored. The spirits that roam in the markets were real, and their wrath was swift and unforgiving. From that day onward, no one in Umueke dared to question the old ways, and the story of Chidalu, the boy who defied the gods, was passed down for generations as cautionary tale. The village was forever changed, and so was Chidalu. When he woke up the next morning, his voice was gone, his body weak, and his spirit broken. He had challenged the ancient warnings and lost. Some traditions exist for reasons far beyond human understanding, and curiosity, if not tampered with respect, can lead one to one's undoing. As a parent, train your children in the way that is right, so that when they are old, they will not depart from it.